We're leaving Timberline now. Just hiked up the hill and we're back on the PCT from the looks of this sign over here. So we had a nice stay there, relaxing. It wasn't cheap, of course, but it's kind of an experience that we wanted to have. So, but we're done with the high life and back to being hiker trash. We're headed now to Cascade Locks. We anticipate it'll take us 3 days to get there. And north of Cascade Locks on the trail, we've got the Williams Mine fire that's closed the trail for several miles and doesn't open up again until we get up close to the Goat Rocks. We were going to continue on up the trail into Washington, but that part is closed. The parts that are open in Washington are pretty much the parts that we've done in the past. So after thinking about it long and hard, we've decided that we're going to conclude our hike in Cascade Locks. So this last segment here of 50 miles
we'll do
is
Washington next year.
This last segment of 50 miles is the last part of our 2024 PCT hike. And yeah, the plan would be to come back and hike that southern section of Washington next year sometime.
That's Mount Jefferson. Can't see the sisters right now in the fog over government camp. Cool. Beautiful. Saying goodbye to Timberline. That was a nice experience. We don't have to say goodbye to Hood right away. We get to walk with Hood for a while.
There's a couple of different rivers we have to cross, or streams, today. The first one is the Zigzag River, and we might be starting down into the drainage now. I was wrong. The last drainage was not zigzag. It was this one over here. It's a creek running down. But this is the zigzag drainage. So we have to get all the way down there and cross that river down there. We're down to the Zigzag River. Let's see whether we can get across here without getting our feet wet or not. Yeah, we had to get our feet wet, but it's supposed to rain later on. Our feet would probably get wet anyway, so.
A big crossing where we're gonna get wet.
Oh.
I'm thinking there's a beautiful view here, but I think we're just going to have to imagine it. It's pretty socked in. I think the mountain's off that way. We're sitting here eating our second breakfast, and look what my eyes find.
Look what? Look what?
Isn't that beautiful? It's an interesting rock there, but those flowers, beautiful. So we were having trouble finding the trail from our second breakfast, and then we got out our app and realized that the trail actually goes down there, which looks a little spooky right now with all this fog. But here we go.
We're walking through this somewhat mysterious seeming forest with the fog in amongst the trees.
Another tree bridge. What is holding that up? Just friction against that tree, I think.
No, it's against that tree there.
The nose of it's against that tree?
Yeah.
It's not much. Here we go. Ah. Trust my balance.
The PCT itself doesn't go by Ramona Falls, but there's a loop that you can take that will take us back to the PCT, and it's pretty much the same distance as hiking the PCT instead of the loop, so we chose to do the loop so we could come and see Ramona Falls. This is Ramona Falls. I'm guessing it's about 50 feet high. They're pretty, with the water cascading over different parts of the rock. We're walking along next to this cliff, sheer cliff of this rock. It's really kind of cool rock. The angles, but it's sheer, straight up and down. And we have this beautiful creek. This is the creek that ran over Ramona Falls. So I don't know, is it Ramona Creek? I'm not sure what it's called, but we're continuing to walk along next to it. The rain has come, so we're Gore-Texing up. It's supposed to have been raining earlier today, so I guess we could say we got off a little bit easy. Might be raining all tomorrow too, we don't really know. We have 2.5 miles to go to where we want to camp tonight. It rained all night long, thundered, in the early part of the night, but then later just rain, 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 rain. Our tent supposedly was waterproof, but that failed us. It was pretty wet inside. Our sleeping bags are moderately dry. We've tried to protect those, but most of our other stuff is pretty wet. So I'm not sure what tonight is going to be like. If we're not able to dry things out today, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to, tonight might be kind of a miserable night. But we're going to hit the trail here and just try to generate some body heat to dry some clothes off. We haven't videoed much because it's a real pain to video when we've got the Gore-Tex mittens and stuff on. Today has been a very trying day. It'll be a relatively short day. We're trying to get to a place where we can camp and just pitch the tent and try to warm up a little bit, dry things out a little bit. The rain has stopped, and right here it's not very windy. So that's why we decided to take a break here in this big rock slide. We've recorded very little today because it's been a very wet, unpleasant day. We had a start, well, last night as we were hiking, it started to rain, which we expected. And we put our Gore-Tex on, and we did okay with that. We got to a campsite, put up our tent in what we thought was a good spot, but when we woke up this morning, we were basically in a big puddle.
A lake.
So everything was
We were in
wet.
a lake.
There was water inside the tent. The only thing that kept us and our sleeping bags dry was our blown up air pads. They were kind of rising like islands above the level of the water. And so we packed up as best we could. Everything was soaked, drenched. It was still raining, and we got ourselves on the trail.
We were able to pretty much keep our sleeping bags dry, but our sleeping pads were totally wet. And of course the tent floor was totally wet, the tent sopping.
So we got on down the trail, but it was a hard day. Linda's back has been bothering her. Really ongoingly. We just haven't said that much about it, but she's kind of learned how to control it. But today it just wasn't cooperating, so it was giving her a lot of pain the entire day.
One problem with dealing with the back pain today was it was too cold and too wet to stop and take breaks, so we didn't take any breaks. Also, when my back is troubling me, usually I will lay down on a pad and stretch it out and do some exercises and just let it relax. And I couldn't do that. It was raining and it was cold, so we hiked the whole time and the back was never able to, release the tension, so it got pretty bad.
So we cut our hike a little bit, well, we cut it quite a bit short. We were going to try to do about 17 or 18 miles today to set ourselves up for a shorter day tomorrow going into Cascade Locks, but we only went about 11.4 or something. So
11.6.
Just because Linda's back was so painful and the hiking was so unpleasant. So we have a longer day tomorrow to get into Cascade Locks. Wanted to show you our little setup here. Linda had the idea of taking our emergency blankets and spreading them out and covering the floor of the tent, and then putting our wet sleeping pads on them, and then putting another emergency blanket on top of them. So we were able to get in here and stay dry, even though a lot of our equipment is wet. I'll show that here. So the orange emergency blanket is the bottom layer. And then we have our Z-fold pads, which they got wet, but they dry quickly. So, but they're not full length. And then we have our air sleeping pads are under here, and they were just sopping this morning. They don't feel so bad right now, but if we were to put our sleeping bags against them, they could get our sleeping bags wet. And then we have the second layer of emergency blanket, and that's what we're lying on. So we've actually been able to get kind of cozy in here.
It took a while to warm up, though. My feet were so cold because they were wet, of course. So they got pretty cold. So it took a couple hours huddled in the sleeping bags trying to warm up.
So the weather report says that the rain is supposed to stop at about 7, which is what it is now, 7 or 8. And we're supposed to actually have a dry night. And then tomorrow we're supposed to wake up with some sunshine, so that'll be nice. Too bad we don't have sunshine now to help dry and warm things out, but we're looking forward to a much better hike tomorrow. We actually do have some sunshine now. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see a little bit of shadows on the tent, on the wall of the tent. So, but the sun's going down. So we're going to have another night in the tent here.
My concern is the weather forecast says it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow, but it also says 100% humidity. And my experience is that when it says that, you're in it's foggy and misty and still kind of damp, cold and wet, even though it's not really raining. So I'm afraid that's what it might be tomorrow. I'm hoping it's sunny so we can dry things out, and so that I can stop and rest and exercise my back, so that the day won't be quite so difficult.
So we'll let you know more tomorrow, and if it's a better day we'll video more. But today we were wearing our Gore-Tex mittens the entire day. It's a pain to get the camera out while we got those on, and frankly we just weren't in the mood for getting out and videoing, so hopefully tomorrow we'll do better.